What is going on, world? What's up, YouTube? It's Zero here. Today I'm bringing you guys a brand new episode of The 8 Below Show. Welcome everyone to 8 Below. Thanks for being here, guys, to the best gaming-related show here on YouTube. And I'm super excited about our episode here today. We have a lot of stuff to talk about, so let's get into it. We've talked numerous times on the YouTube channel about Killzone, a franchise, guys, that I absolutely love. This is a franchise that really kind of was a defining game in the PlayStation 3 time that I was really playing this game on a daily basis. I was playing this along with Resistance, Fall of Man, amongst other games as well. But really, those two games were kind of staples to me in the PlayStation 3 days, right? And so ever since then, I've been really looking forward to the continuations of a lot of these franchises, one of those being Killzone in particular, game that spans back to 2004. And so I really have been hoping to see, where this series could go. But I think what we need to do, guys, is talk about the past in order to kind of predict what might happen in the future. So let's talk about it. Guys, like I said, Killzone started back in 2004. And for us here today, we're talking about what happened here to Killzone and what might have killed the franchise, or is it killed? Are we going to be seeing a continuation at some point in the near future? Well, from 2004, guys, to 2013 is kind of the time span that we've been having these games, right? So Killzone 1 in 2004, then you had Liberation in 2006. Killzone 2 didn't come out until 2009, and then Killzone 3 in 2011. Shadowfall came out as well as Mercenary in 2013, which a lot of people say that Shadowfall is technically Killzone 4. I kind of disagree. I just think that Killzone 4 is something that is coming at some point in the future. Well, I think what happened here, guys, there was a lot of, big-time question marks around this franchise, and I think that Shadowfall, a lot of people kind of point to saying that's the reason why there was a downfall in Killzone, and I partially agree with that, but I also think the developers of Killzone are Guerrilla Games, guys. They're the ones who make Horizon Zero Dawn, and it seems like they've been working on potentially a Horizon Zero Dawn 2, or potentially a new Killzone game. But obviously, after Shadowfall, they took a break from making, Killzone games, and they were working on Horizon Zero Dawn, and they've been working on that pretty much ever since. At least that's what we think. So I think the big thing is that what happened to Killzone? I think what happened was Horizon Zero Dawn came around and kind of took a little bit of those eyeballs away from Killzone and to Horizon Zero Dawn over at the development studio Guerrilla Games. In an article that was written, though, guys, by Danny Pays of Inverse, Killzone 5, even though I consider it Killzone 4, could be a PS5 launch title, job listings hints. So, Guerrilla Games has been silent ever since its critically acclaimed release of Horizon Zero Dawn. The one-of-a-kind game was so well received that producer Angie Smets essentially confirmed a sequel, and the developer has a myriad of job openings that strongly hint that Horizon Zero Dawn 2 is in the works. However, one listing suggests that Guerrilla might be developing a new installment of their oldest IP instead, that being Killzone. The Sony subsidiary is looking for a game server engineer who will work on systems like matchmaking, tournaments, clans, and leaderboards. This sparked a flood of speculation this week that Horizon Zero Dawn 2 might feature a new multiplayer experience, but it's very likely that this position would be a part of a Killzone 5 team. Don't worry, Horizon Zero Dawn 2 is almost certainly still happening, but don't be surprised if a new Killzone is announced first. So look, guys, we've kind of already talked about this. There's definitely a potential that this speculation and really what this job title is kind of going, kind of giving us about a game server engineer, about matchmaking and such, really tells you that, yes, this could be a multiplayer experience for Horizon Zero Dawn 2, or it could be a continuation of Killzone. The thing is, though, is that everything seems to be pointing in the direction of Horizon Zero Dawn 2, unless they're working on both games at the same time, which I kind of doubt, but I think it's obviously something that we, shouldn't kind of ignore at this point. Killzone 5 has not been confirmed, but Guerrilla made two big hires in 2018 that suggest it's putting together an FPS dream team. Simon LaRouche joined the company in February of that year after 8 years at Ubisoft, where he worked on shooters like Rainbow Six Siege. LaRouche was the senior designer for Killzone 2 between 2006 and 2009, so he'd already be familiar with the series. Guerrilla then hired Chris Lee in October of 2018, who worked on Rainbow Six Siege with LaRouche at Ubisoft. Both developers state that they're working on an unannounced title on their LinkedIn profiles, which may be a new Killzone to coincide with the upcoming release of the PlayStation 5. Look, these are ways in which we can kind of state like there's definitely potential to a new Killzone. Even though it seems like Horizon Zero Dawn 2 is coming, I think a lot of fans would be really upset if Horizon Zero Dawn 2 didn't get announced. But I think that there's a really passionate fan base for Killzone as well, and I'm one of those people. Personally, I want to see a new Killzone before a new Horizon Zero Dawn because we already had Horizon Zero Dawn. I think it's Killzone's turn, and then after Killzone 5 or 4 is what I'm calling it, after that would come out, then of course Horizon Zero Dawn 2 would be awesome. But in my opinion, I still am not convinced that we're going to see Killzone in a continuation of that right now. I think it's definitely something that's coming in the future, but Horizon Zero Dawn 2 I still think is probably the next game coming up here for Guerrilla Games. But the timing lines up perfectly. Guerrilla has released a new Killzone title at the launch of every Sony console since the PS2. Sony revealed the PS5 will hit shelves during the 2020 holiday season, which means sometime between October and December. The most recent installment of the series, Killzone Shadowfall, came out in 2013. That means Guerrilla has had ample time to plan for its next chapter. Plus, it seems like Guerrilla will want to focus more on the story and single-player experience of Horizon Zero Dawn 2 rather than try to do something completely different like a big multiplayer component. So with that being said, guys, here at the end of the day, what it really comes down to is what are the goals of what Guerrilla Games wants to do at this point. I mean, do they want to do Horizon Zero Dawn 2? Do they also want to do a Killzone? And I think that they can do both those because they're IPs that they own. And I think that maybe they want to bring out another Killzone that's going to, be a launch title with the PS5, or maybe it's going to come out shortly after the PS5 comes out. I would love that. I think it's time, guys. We haven't had a game in the Killzone franchise since 2013, and sure, Shadowfall was technically a continuation of the Killzone franchise, but I obviously don't want that to be my last memory of Killzone because I thought the first 3 were awesome, and Shadowfall was definitely a fall, no pun intended, in my opinion, of the franchise. And so I would really like to see a continuation of Killzone moving forward, and hopefully that's exactly what they're doing. But those of you who are really into Horizon Zero Dawn, I don't think you need to be worried that this is a franchise that is, going away anytime soon. It has been a smash hit. You guys are definitely going to be getting another Horizon Zero Dawn without a doubt. Killzone, it's definitely something that's more up in the air, whether or not this is a franchise that's going to have a continuation. And that's why I feel like I'd like to see them do another Killzone at this point, because then it kind of gives you that gratification as well as kind of lets you know that, hey, this is still a franchise that we're thinking of and that we want to continue making titles for. And Horizon Zero Dawn is going to obviously be there. And I would be down for the wait for Horizon Zero Dawn 2, just so that it's definitely fully fleshed out, a great story, hopefully some multiplayer components as well as some, co-op moments that you're going to be able to kind of really dive in and continue coming back to the franchise. But at the end of the day, guys, I believe that Killzone and what happened in this franchise really comes down to one thing, and that was pretty much Horizon Zero Dawn came out, and that's what Guerrilla Games has been focused most of their time on. But I also think it could be maybe that Shadowfall wasn't as good as the other 3 Killzone games. So there might be a couple of things, but I really think the main one is Horizon Zero Dawn at this point. And we'll see what Guerrilla Games decides to do moving forward. Hopefully both of these titles can coexist in gaming and with Guerrilla Games as they kind of expand their studio. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. What do you guys think happened to Killzone? And would you like to see a continuation of this franchise? Let me know, like I said, in the comment section below. And for more Killzone 4 content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. A game that feels, and a franchise, I should say, that feels like a distant memory is True Crime. Guys, a lot of you may have never been able to play True Crime, but if you ever got the opportunity, this was a really great game. I remember playing it on the PC so many years ago, it feels like at this point, and at this point, guys, we haven't had any confirmation of a continuation of True Crime in the foreseeable future. So I wanted to go ahead and talk about what happened to True Crime as a franchise. So let's talk about it. So guys, this was, just as a refresher, since it's been probably a long time since any of you have played or even talked about True Crime, it was a series, guys, an open world action-adventure video game told from the perspective of law enforcement. There are 2 games in the series, that being True Crime Streets of LA, which was released in 2003, and True Crime New York City, released in 2005. And just so you guys know, there was very much so a lot of connection that really, it felt like this was a game that was kind of like a spiritual successor, or even more so just kind of very close to the code of what was Grand Theft Auto back in the day. Streets of LA received mixed to positive reviews, with many reviewers favorably comparing it to Grand Theft Auto 3 and Grand Theft Auto Vice City. And so, all in all, guys, Streets of LA was very popular when it first came out, and I remember that. It came out, I played it shortly after it was released. I believe it was on Christmas of that year that I was playing it. And I gotta say, it was a really fantastic game, guys. I really enjoyed it for what it was. It did kind of, it was kind of a reminder of Grand Theft Auto. I wasn't allowed to play Grand Theft Auto at the time, but what I will say is that True Crime definitely kind of quenched my thirst before I was able to start playing Grand Theft Auto. And then once I was able to start playing it, obviously there was a lot of, similarities between those 2 games. Publisher was Activision, and I kind of wish that they would have kept this title. I mean, it really kept the IP. It's really sad of kind of what happened here, but originally New York City was intended as the first of a 2-part series set in New York, but after the game's poor critical and commercial performance, Activision scrapped the direct sequel and put plans for future true crime games on hold. And then in 2007, they hired United Front Games to develop an open world game set in Hong Kong. By 2009, this game had become True Crime Hong Kong. However, in 2011, the game was canceled. The publishing rights were picked up by Square Enix several months later, and True Crime Hong Kong was ultimately released in 2012 as Sleeping Dogs, which has no connection to the True Crime series. For not renewing rights in 2014, Activision dropped the True Crime trademark completely, which means that there could no longer be any relaunch of Streets of LA in New York City on current consoles. So ultimately, guys, really sad. I mean, just ultimately, it's really unfortunate that this happened. I think it really comes down to, ultimately, guys, that New York City, True Crime New York City, did not do very well whatsoever, whether we're talking commercially, and critically, as well as, of course, the sales, guys. Streets of LA was a commercial success. Its first 2 weeks on release in North America, it sold over 300,000 units across all platforms. By the end of its month, it had sold over 600,000 units. Ultimately, the game went on to sell over 3 million units worldwide across all platforms. And then New York City did not sell well, falling considerably short of Activision's expectations and selling only 72,000 units in its first 2 weeks on release in North America. And I would have to say, guys, in my opinion, the reason why New York City didn't sell as well as Streets of LA, it just wasn't as good. I mean, it was not as good of a game. And surprisingly, though, a lot of times when you have a sequel to a game, especially one that sells well for the first game, usually that second one sells really well. I mean, sometimes even better than the first game. And so it was really surprising that New York City really didn't sell well at all. I mean, you look at the reviews comparison. Streets of LA, guys, on PC got 68 out of 100. On PS2 got 77 out of 100, and Xbox got a 77 out of 100. And then you move over to New York City, that one got 54 out of 100 on PC, PS2 60 out of 100, and Xbox 60 out of 100. So the reviews kind of dipped, in a major way, and so that kind of, messed up, I would say, in a lot of different ways, guys. It really hurt this franchise was New York City. And to be quite fair, though, guys, I didn't think New York City was a terrible game. Ultimately, was it as good as Streets of LA? No, but I don't think that it was a terrible game either. I thought it was pretty good, actually. There were things about it I liked more than Streets of LA. There were things I didn't like as much as Streets of LA, but all in all, I thought that it was still a franchise that should have continued, at least given one more chance kind of thing moving forward. And it seems like Activision was planning on doing that, but then they ended up just, completely canceling that project. And the one really weird part of this was that Square Enix took the IP and released it as Sleeping Dogs, and it has nothing to do with the True Crime series, which is very strange to me. Now, I don't know if they weren't allowed to call it True Crime or something. It's a very strange situation though, all in all, and one that is really sad that we'll never really know kind of all of the ins and outs of what happened here. But it's definitely a game I would love to see come back. If you guys are big True Crime fans like I was back then, and I was pretty young when I was playing these games, I would have to say, guys, that it doesn't look likely that we will ever see another True Crime game, at least for, the foreseeable future, unless for some reason, Activision decides to renew the rights or someone else, decides to pick up the IP. But at this point, it's at a pretty much a permanent hiatus or a limbo state at this point. And it's hard to say if we'll ever see another continuation of this franchise. And I think it's one of those franchises, guys, that was it was really a game that in a franchise, I think that could have been a really big game had it continued. It could have been like another Grand Theft Auto or like a Mafia or one of these other, games that could have coexisted in the genre. But ultimately, we'll never know, guys, and it's unfortunate. But I'd love to hear from you guys. What do you guys think about True Crime? What do you think happened there? Let me know in the comment section below. Would you want to see a True Crime, pick it back up and start off again? What would you guys think about that? Let me know in the comment section below. And for more True Crime content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. One of my favorite PlayStation exclusives of all time, guys, and I'm sure a lot of us can agree with this one, Uncharted. I gotta say, guys, this has been a franchise that has captivated me in many ways. At the time, when I first started playing the Uncharted games, I gotta say that they were the best games I had ever played on PlayStation, and they were some of the best games I'd ever played all time as far as from a story narrative perspective. Until I started playing The Last of Us, and then that kind of took the throne, even though, of course, Uncharted is almost neck and neck with The Last of Us. I'd probably put The Last of Us a little bit above it, but Uncharted is a spectacle, guys. It's an incredible franchise. And so one thing that I've been wanting, and I've been talking to a lot of my friends about, and people actually on social media and such, is the continuation of this franchise. Uncharted 5, guys, we're going to talk about here in this last segment of the show why Uncharted 5 needs to exist and why it should exist, guys. And I'd love to get your guys' opinion on this in the comment section below. Look, Uncharted 4, A Thief's End. We can talk about all day how they perfectly crafted this franchise in a way in which, guys, when I talk about Naughty Dog, these guys are taking an aggressive approach to be one of the best, if not the best, game developer in the world. And I don't think there's any debate about that. They are really they're trying very hard, guys. Obviously with on the Uncharted series to the Last of Us series, they're reminding me kind of like what Rockstar does. Rockstar, every time a Rockstar game comes out, they're kind of, raising the bar, trying to make their games even better and better as they go. And I think that Naughty Dog is doing some of the same. Uncharted, even though Uncharted 4, I've got to say, guys, it's one of the greatest stretches in video game history when it comes to a narrative perspective. Those first 4 games were incredible, guys. Just such an incredible experience. Each one just kept on raising the bar just a little bit, or even majorly, right? And ultimately, guys, I thought that Uncharted is almost perfect, like how it is, right? Those 4 games, you don't even necessarily need to continue it, right? Now, The Lost Legacy came out. I wish that wasn't the last memory I have of Uncharted. Not because it was a bad experience, but it just wasn't as good as those 4, original games. I wish that The Lost Legacy would have came out like after Uncharted 3, and then we would have had Uncharted 4, and that would have been the last memory we had. But what I'll say is this, guys. When I remember back to Uncharted 1 and Uncharted 2, I gotta say, like, they were just incredible experiences. The third one, I thought that the third one, guys, wasn't actually as good as the second. I thought it might, I thought the third one was really good, but the second one has a really special place in my heart. And the fourth one, I do think, is the best out of the entire franchise. So they've really raised the bar overall, guys, in this franchise. Now, why Uncharted 5? Well, here's the thing, guys. Why, as a franchise, as a whole, Nathan Drake's story seems to be over, right? It seems to be over. But it feels to me like the torch could be passed onwards to someone else and in the franchise. And I gotta say that I think it might be time. Like, I look at games like that it's worked in the past. Like, you look at Gears of War, right? Gears of War, we had Marcus Phoenix, who's the main character for 3 games, right? And then you had a couple of other, you had Gears Ultimate Edition, you had Gears of War Judgment, which, Gears of War Judgment, I don't even really think of that necessarily in the main story, right? But then you get Gears of War 4, and the torch is passed from Marcus to JD, his son. And then from there, the torch is passed from JD to Kate Diaz from Gears 4 to Gears 5. And so what I'm getting at here, guys, is that Uncharted is something similar to me from a narrative perspective, that you could have Nathan Drake continue to be in the games, but he's just not the main character anymore. He's not the one that's helming it. And I think that Naughty Dog may very well be thinking about doing this at some point in the future, like having Nathan Drake as he's there, right? He's a character, but he's not like the main character. He's not the person that you're playing as, right? And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Marcus Phoenix, he's in basically all the Gears of War games up to this point, even when he's as a side character. He's not the playable character. And I think that's fine, as long as he's like there at least, and we kind of see how his story is progressing as time goes. It's all good. Uncharted, guys, is a in my opinion, is a franchise that deserves to continue. And I think they were doing something really special with Uncharted 4 as well, with the multiplayer experience. It was pretty special, guys. And so I think that that's something that Naughty Dog needs to continue doing as well, is the multiplayer experience, as well as a narrative experience and some co-op experiences. Continuing having those full packages. Uncharted is a franchise that deserves to continue in the next gen consoles. Without a doubt. And obviously it would probably be an exclusive to PlayStation once again, which is basically all the Naughty Dog titles are at this point. But that's okay. Uncharted 5 should exist, guys, because of what they've built so far. Now, there's always the flip side of this, right? There's going to be a lot of people saying, well, we don't need an Uncharted 5. If they make it, it might ruin the franchise. That's true. Maybe it will. But maybe it won't, right? Because could you sit here and say that The Lost Legacy ruined the franchise? Look, it's probably the least favorite of all the Uncharteds, in my personal opinion, when we talk about the overall franchise of Uncharted. In my opinion, it's the worst addition to the franchise. Now, what I will say about that, though, is that I'm glad it exists in Uncharted. I'm glad that it's there. It's like another way that you can connect with the franchise. And they had some interesting, kind of connections and such within Uncharted The Lost Legacy. But why not continue it? And, sure, you're taking chances, but you take chances anytime you're continuing a franchise. Look, The Last of Us 2 isn't out yet, but they're taking some chances there with making another one. The expectations are so high right now, and then after you hit those expectations or you exceed them, then the expectations are even higher after that. What I think, guys, is that Uncharted, I think there's still a lot more story to be told there. More story, in Nathan Drake's life or, his family's life, whether you take the helm of one of his family members or who knows? Or it's a completely new character that somehow gets, works with Nathan Drake or, whatever it might be, guys. There's a million different ways that you could take the story, but the idea is that the story continues. It's not over yet, right? I look at it, and I'm not saying just to make these games just for the sake of making more games. I'm saying that this is a franchise that should continue for years and years to come because they're just so good. I mean, we look at games, guys, that come out every year. Call of Duty comes out every year, and they are consistently, there's times where there's, there's peaks and valleys where there's some games that are amazing. There's other games that aren't as good, right? But they're consistently coming out there, and for years upon years, who knows? I mean, we might have Call of Duties every year for the next 20 years or something. I mean, it's hard to say, right? So the same thing can be said with something like Uncharted. It would be really cool to have these games that you get 1 or 2 titles every console generation. That way that people, as time goes, are able to connect with those franchises sooner or later. And I think that there's something there, guys. I really do. I still think that there's still a lot of story left to be told. Maybe Nathan Drake's story overall has been told from a player's perspective of us controlling him as our character. That story may be totally told at this point, and you don't want to kind of continue that and maybe risk harming the legacy of Uncharted, but passing the torch onwards to someone else. I think that would be a really cool thing, guys. I really do. But I'd love to hear from you guys. What do you guys think about it? Let me know in the comment section below as to why you think Uncharted 5 should exist or why you think it shouldn't exist. I've kind of given my, I kind of both sides to what I think. I believe personally that it should exist. I'm happy with having those 4 games, obviously, guys. But I want to see more. I do. I would love to see more. I think they were doing something special with the multiplayer experience. So I would like to see more. But I totally understand why they might not want to, come back to Uncharted just because, they feel maybe that story's been told and they want to move on to other pastures. But who knows, guys? Maybe Uncharted 5 will come out one day, and I'll certainly be there to support it if they decide to do that. But like I said, guys, I'd love to hear from all of you. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. And for more Uncharted 5 content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. And with that being said, everyone, I hope you guys did enjoy this episode of the 8 Below Show. And if you guys did, leave a thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, stay positive, and as always, I'll talk to you guys all in the next one. Peace.